Something happens the moment a community clicks. People start showing up who weren't there yesterday, and they start talking to each other. Not just to the person who built the thing. That's usually the moment someone gets hooked on a community for good, watching a room come alive on its own. Now, content is what gets someone in the door. Community is what keeps them there long after the doors close behind them. That's why a course sitting inside a real community sees people actually finish it, module after module, because there are other people in the room finishing it alongside them. They're having conversations and discussions, and they're interacting with each other. A course on its own has nobody watching if you quit halfway, which is why a lot of courses have very poor completion rates. Now, that's a real connection, not a metric. Loyalty grows out of it too, because nobody stays loyal to a course they finished months ago. But people keep coming back to a room they still belong to, and the business built around that room compounds, since every member who sticks around tends to bring someone else in. That pull only lasts if there's somewhere to go. People don't stick around a room just because other people are in it. They stick around because everyone in that room is heading somewhere, and each conversation moves them a step closer. Take away that direction and the room changes fast. Someone posts, gets a couple of reactions, and nothing else happens. A few weeks later, they stop checking in, not because they disliked the group, but because nothing there was taking them anywhere. Multiply that across every member who joined without a real journey to walk, and the community goes quiet on its own, without anyone doing anything wrong on purpose. Yes, the content still matters, but only when it's pointed at something. A community built around a topic collects people who happen to be interested. A community built around a transformation collects people trying to get somewhere. And that difference decides whether the room's still alive 6 months from now. That's the appeal. Now, the real question is where to build it. Hi, I'm William Beam. I started my own business and did what most business owners do. I picked up the tools one at a time. My bills kept climbing. I still did the work by hand that I'd already paid the tools to do. Now, I'd spent years building systems at places like Lockheed Martin and PwC. I just wasn't using that skill set on my own business. That's what I do now as principal architect for Suburbia Press, and it's what this show teaches you. Today, that means putting two community platforms through the same 5 questions that I always talk about here, and we're going to be looking at Circle, a software as a service community, and FluentCommunity, a WordPress self-hosted community platform. All right, let's say somebody picks up Circle because the price on the page says $89 a month. Now, that number holds about as long as it takes to actually need for the platform to do something. If you want to add workflows, an API connection, or branded emails, the real number turns into $199 a month, or even higher. A transaction fee sits on every sale you make, no matter which tier you're on, so growth itself gets taxed along the way. Run that business tier number for 3 years, and the platform alone costs $7,164 before a single transaction fee, or $1 spent on email. Add the email hub most growing communities end up needing, and 3 years on Circle runs closer to $10,728, still without counting what gets taken off the top of every sale. That's the number on the page. The number that shows up later is a different problem. Trustpilot reviewers have described their monthly rate jumping from $89 to $129 without a warning or explanation, sometimes after years on the platform. The plan someone builds a business on today isn't guaranteed to be the plan they're still paying for a year from now, and the vendor gets to make that call, not the business owner. This is a common thing with software as a service. It's a migration, members, content, and history moving somewhere else while the community itself sits still and loses momentum during the move. All right, let's take a look at a few things. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I own and use FluentCommunity, and I'm very familiar with it. FluentCommunity, when it was developed, they said they used Circle for their inspiration. So that's kind of why I'm comparing the two right now on this one. So we're going to take a look at these community tools as software as a service versus self-hosted. There are pros and cons for each one. Neither of them are bad products, and I don't want to convey that one or the other is better. But the reason why you purchase one or the other could be different based on your business needs. So right now, we're taking a look at a few different communities that I belong to. This one, WP Tuts, Paul Charlton on YouTube hosts this community. He does an outstanding job. This one is Lindsay Adler. She is a photographer, commercial, works out of New York, New Jersey. She's probably done a lot of cosmetic and other types of commercial photography that you've seen, just doesn't know she does it. I kind of follow her because she has wonderful training and tutorials for other photographers, and she's switched from a software as a service platform to FluentCommunity a couple of months before I recorded this. This one is from someone who makes plug-in add-ons to FluentCommunity. It is called FluentCommunity Add-ons. So that's another popular one here, and he's got different add-ons that he puts down here and offers those for sale. My own Suburbia Press community is right here, and you can see that we've got some other things down here. So a lot of what's going on here, I break this down into the free area, which would include a general discussion, and there's a section called Did You Know, and also the Getting Started area. For those who opt up for the paid solution, I've got other groups that kind of fit in with what we talk about on the Suburbia Press in creating a capabilities show. So it's kind of broken down in those segments. And also, we offer courses here as well. So you can see I've got something on email tags. I've got something on web colors and high-performance WordPress. But this one is kind of like a larger course. So if you wanted to learn about FluentCommunity itself, I've got a course that is 30 lessons long, and it kind of goes through everything you need to know to get started setting up FluentCommunity. Now, if you join the premium plan at $129 a year, you get this course and all the others included, plus any other courses that are coming up. And if you just want this course by itself, it'll be $67 one-time payment. All right, so that's enough of looking at existing communities. Let's start off with Circle. Circle has been around for a while. It's a very well-loved and respected software as a service platform. And I just kind of want to scroll down and show you some of the things that they have on their site. So they also do courses. And we're going to go through the various features as far as what they each offer. Some offer things that the other does not. Some they do slightly differently. A lot of things they do the same. And then you can see that here are some of the people they've put in that are some of their high-profile users. Now, a couple of these folks I know. Pat Flynn, I followed for years. He's got very good material for his SPI brand, which is Smart Passive Income. Tim Ferriss is a popular podcast host and author. Some of the other folks I don't know, but this is kind of typical of software as a service. They want to show you people who are using their product. These people are successful. Therefore, if you use their product, you'll be successful too. That's not an uncommon thing. It's not a bad thing. That's just kind of what people do. Now, I come down here and there's a lot of tabs. I want to go through some of these, but I couldn't help myself. I looked down here and I saw this one says, Melissa Emberson. The truth is, I recognize this person. I don't know her personally, but this is not Melissa Emberson as far as anybody who is a growth manager. This is a stock photography model, and I want to show you that. So photography is one of my hobbies, and I've actually purchased several photographs featuring this same model. And these are just kind of all in the same background. Her face is very familiar to me. I'm not the only one who's used her in some stock photography results. And, you know, she's a lovely woman. I understand why people want her. She is got a lot of expressions, as you can see, and she just does stock photography. I don't know if it's a hobby or a living for her, but I recognize that face, and I'm thinking, okay, they're putting this out there as someone who's part of their community, and she's not. So just for fun, I actually took a screenshot of her photograph on the Circle website. And I've come over here to Google Images, and they've got this thing called Lens, where you can put up a photo, and it'll see if you can find any other. So this is the one that shows Melissa Emberson. And here are the matches that we see. So this is the same woman, same expression. I mean, I just recognize her because I've seen her photo so many times. This photo is exactly the same one as the one up here that I copied, but basically that photo's been used in a number of places. You can see even different photos from the same place. So I found her on Adobe Stock. Here she is on Deposit Photos. And this is probably a little bit of an aside. I like this model. I don't even know her name. But what I wanted to point out is this is fake. I don't know why they did that, unless they just simply needed to put some people out there. I presume the same is going to be true. All of these people in the directory are stock photo. I don't know. It seems like you would have people that you could show as part of your community. I'm sure Circle, who operates a community, has its own community. But anyways, I digress a bit. Sorry about that. So it offers discussions. It has private messaging. It has courses, including quizzes. It can run events. You can also run live streams. Now, this is going to depend upon the plan that you're on. So the directory we already looked at, customization, custom branding, custom domain, and so forth. Again, this is going to depend on the tier that you've purchased. Gamification, such as leaderboards and automated journey rewards, points, levels, and badges. And of course, there are analytics. Now let's take a look at FluentCommunity. So this is their website. You can see that they have a number of things, and we'll look at their features and pricing as well too. But you can see some of them are the same. They've got a feed, so you can see all the discussions at once. You can take a look at the members in the community, spaces that are out there, the different discussion going on. So spaces are kind of like collections of discussions. You've also got your private communication going on or chat. There's a leaderboard, and of course, there are courses. The difference is you own it all, and they say the flex is yours. Basically, the difference between software as a service is you don't own it, you're renting it, which means they take care of the maintenance on a WordPress plugin site like FluentCommunity. You own the software. The price is not going to go up. Now, you may end up paying for licensing fees to get the pro version. There is a free version. And then once you've got that, you have the choice. Do you want to upgrade when new features come out? Well, that depends on the version, if there's going to be a charge for that or not. But support is what they charge you for if you want it. You don't have to. In other words, you're not going to lose your site because the price went up. It's not going to change your business model because the site went up. And I didn't know this before I actually came here. Yeah, I'm the poster boy apparently for FluentCommunity, or at least one of them. And they've got real people over here, just like Circle did. You know, as I pointed out, Pat Flynn, Tim Ferriss, those are real people. And I talked to him quite a lot inside of the community. So these are people I know are real because I see them in the WP Managed Ninja community. So that's just kind of a quick look at what they've got here. What I want to do now is go over feature by feature and do a comparison so you can see what's going to be the difference between these two products. We're going to look at the pricing plan for both of them. On Circle, your professional plan is $89 a month, billed annually. You can see there is a 14-day free trial, or $129 a month if you want to bill month to month. The business plan, right over here, is $199 a month. And you can see that there are different things involved with the pricing plans as you see them. So these are tiers. And then they have Circle Plus. So this one is custom pricing. And this one, they don't even show you, but they do include a lot of things. So AI agents are in here. Custom single sign-on. So for example, if you have a business, maybe you use Active Directory and you want to use your business directory services to log in, you can. You have the highest limits, which tells you there are still limits on how much live you can use, how much storage you can use in any workflows. You get 10,000 email hub contacts included, lower transaction fees. So every transaction that you make for selling something has a fee that goes along with it above and beyond your payment provider. So take a good look over here, pause the video if you need to so you can see what's included. But what they're not showing you here is that there are caps on some of these things. So yes, you can have live streams, but only so many hours. Same thing with your custom branding, but not necessarily your custom domain. So if you see things on either side over here for the business or the Circle Plus pricing, those are things that are not available in the professional $89 a month plan. Now let's go ahead and take a look at FluentCommunity. Right now, you can see that they're showing annual and lifetime. Now, the lifetime is not going to last forever. If you decide to buy lifetime for a single site license, you'll pay $399 and you'll never have to pay again. That's good for one domain and lifetime priority support, all features included. You'll notice that all of these say all features included. The difference in these prices is how many sites you can operate. So if you only want to run one community, you can buy this plan. If you need 5 different sites or 5 different communities, you need this plan. And 15, you can run this. But lifetime is not going to last forever. So the annual plan right now is discounted. Typically, it's $199 a year for a single site annual plan. That's for one domain, same thing as the lifetime. And then You can see it's on sale. They've got a discount going off right now for 20%, which is taking it down to $159. Over here for 5 site licenses, it's typically going to be $399, but now it's $319. And for 15, let's say you run an agency and you need to host communities for your clients, $699 for 15 sites, and it's now discounted to $559. All the plans include the same things. So you've got all of these features, the dashboards, the activity feeds, user profiles, post chats, comments, reactions, and you can see all of the lines down here. Polls and surveys, the course builder, the media module, progressive tracking, lesson discussions. And these are just some of the folks that are using it. And there is, again, the same 14-day guarantee. So both Circle and FluentCommunity offer you 14 days to try it out. There is a free version in the WordPress repository if you want to try this out, but honestly, I would recommend you check out the Pro plan. It's going to have all the features you're looking for, as the free version will be limited. But that gives you a look at what you're talking about for the pricing. Now, something to keep in mind, this is the price for the license of the software. You still need a host for this. A virtual private server on xCloud, for example, is the host that I use. The minimum that they recommend, WP Managed Ninja recommends for FluentCommunity, is a 4 gigabyte 2 CPU server. And you may grow from there as your community grows. On xCloud, that costs you $30 a month. So we'll add that $30 a month to your annual fee, but it breaks down pretty well. You're going to be spending roughly between $40 and $50 a month. So that is less than half of what the $89 per month fee is, and it includes everything without having to worry about other transaction fees other than your payment provider may charge you something. I mentioned transaction fees, and I've searched on Circle's site. I do not see mention of what their transaction fees are. So I've gone to Google, I put in Circle transaction fees, and this is what I found. Basically, Circle charges platform transaction fees on sales made through its paywalls, which range from 0.5% to 2%, depending on your subscription plan. So 2% on the professional plan, 1% on the business plan, 0.5% on the Circle Plus stacks, on top of Stripe's standard 2.9% plus 30 cents. So your effective transaction fees are 4.9%, 3.9%, and 3.4%. FluentCommunity does not have any platform transaction fee. It is only the payment processor's transaction fee. So example, if you use Stripe, you'll still have that 2.9% plus 30 cents. If you use PayPal, if you use Authorize.net or some of the other payment gateways, whatever they charge is what you pay. But there is no transaction fee going back to the vendors for FluentCommunity. You only pay for what your payment gateway charges you. I wanted to take a look at what it costs to be on a site for 3 years with Circle. The professional tier for $89 at 36 months equals $3,204. If you add the Email Hub add-on at $99 a month, plus the $35.64 for the Email Hub, that equals a total of $6,768. For the business tier, $199 a month for 36 months is $7,164 a year. If you add the Email Hub add-on, again at $99 a month for $35.64, that means you're spending $10,728. Now, both of these figures exclude any transaction fees entirely, which scale with revenue and aren't a fixed monthly number. Your operating costs for FluentCommunity, that's the price you pay. If you have a lifetime license, once you've paid for that, you don't pay for that again. However, you will be paying for server hosting, which I said would start at roughly $30. That's what I paid when I started off. And if you scale up, the server that I use now costs me $50 per month. Again, that's still lower overall operating costs than you get with Circle. So you are going to spend more for Circle. They are hosting everything. They're putting everything together for you. You don't have any maintenance that you have to do yourself. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. Okay, I mentioned before that software as a service platforms and companies tend to change their prices. And sometimes it's with notice, sometimes without. Circle had a basic tier for $39 to $49 a month. That's been discontinued. The professional plan at $89 a month is now the entry floor. Multiple Trustpilot reviewers report unannounced increases from $189 to $129 a month after 2 years or more on the platform. Some customers say they were upgraded automatically into paid features when they crossed a usage threshold. In other words, they went over whatever their cap was or their limit. So they didn't get stopped at their cap. They got charged more. And they weren't being asked. Now, in 2022, Circle gave existing customers a deadline to lock in the old $79 rate before raising it to $99 for newer signups. So if you were, I guess, a legacy customer, you got to keep your old rate. That's a good thing. New signups came in for $99. Now, a proper grandfathering example showing the current unannounced increase pattern is a change in practice, not the only way Circle is operated. If we want to compare that to FluentCommunity, they've only had one price since it's been in operation. If you get the lifetime price, you pay once, you never have to pay for that service or software again. However, you do have to pay for your hosting. So we'll get into the details of that cost later, but expect $30 to $50 a month, depending on the size of the server you get, where you get it. And that would be configured in your operating cost for FluentCommunity. All right, events and calendar issues are something that Circle has, and we do not see that on FluentCommunity. So there is no native events, calendar space, or anything like that in FluentCommunity. However, as you can see over here on Circle, they do have events, they have live streams, they have a calendar, and that's all part of the system. So it's included in the entry tier. In other words, if you're paying the $89 entry tier fee, it works. It also supports public webinars for non-members. Now, if you're on FluentCommunity, you don't have that. It's not one of the features they have. So you would require a third-party WordPress plugin for events. There are several of them out there. PyCalendar is one that I'm aware of. There are others. And also, if you want to have live streams, then you need to use a different service. You might host that on Zoom, in which case you could get the recordings for that and play it, the archives inside of FluentCommunity. So it would take a little bit of extra cost and extra setup to match this feature inside of Circle over on FluentCommunity. Let's take a closer look at live streaming on Circle. So it's native, included at the entry tier, live rooms for smaller group calls. They're capped, roughly 10 to 15 a month, depending on the plan, before overage charges apply, plus $20 a month per 100 extra live room attendees. So in other words, yes, you get this, but you've got a limit on how many you can have and how many guests you can have. If you go over, you're going to pay extra. So an extra $20 a month per 100. So if you have under 100, you don't hit that overage charge. You get 150, you're going to hit that $20 a month. You start getting 300, 400, well, that's $20 a month per 100. So every 100 attendees that you get, you're starting to tack on that $20 per month fee. Now, FluentCommunity itself doesn't have any of this functionality. It's not available natively. You can work with Zoom or an equivalent service. That is typically $15 to $20 a month with no usage cap for less than Circle's overall cost alone. So it's not built in and integrated, but it is less expensive if you want to go with something like Zoom. Okay, let's take a look at chat features. So this is something with Circle. It's built in. You can see you've got a chat space, you have direct messages, and you can have a group chat. So it's nice. I say the user interface looks very well here. And you can have chat. So the group chat was, let's say, for one of these community areas over here, you can have a group chat for that where several people can interact. You can also have your direct messages if you want to have one-on-one community. Now, the same thing happens with FluentCommunity. You can have group chats. This is something as an administrator you can turn on or off depending on whether you want it or not. You can also have direct messages, and you've got chats per group if you want it, but that's kind of the same thing really as what we were talking about with group or direct messaging. So it's built in. Now, there is another plugin, and you can get it for free. There's a paid upgrade to it. It's called Better Messages. It also integrates with FluentCommunity. It's a very good service. I used it for a while. I decided to go back to the one that is built into FluentCommunity. It's called Fluent Messaging, I believe. And the reason I went back is because I have the idea that they're working on some upgrades to that. So basically, I just kind of decided to go back to the chat that was there. Nothing wrong with better messages. I liked it very much. I was looking down the road, and that's why I returned back to the built-in chat with FluentCommunity. All right. One of the reasons that people have communities is to kind of help people on a journey. They want a transformation. They want to go from where they are to where they want to be. Courses and training are part of that journey. Now, both Circle and FluentCommunity have courses embedded, and I think both of them do a very good job. Circle has a robust, dedicated course tool set. It's included at the entry tier. Reviewers note that the course builder lacks some advanced features like cohort tracking or certificates. I would say you could probably find the same criticism of the courses inside of FluentCommunity. There are certainly no certificates there. You probably could do cohort tracking, but let me dig into that a little bit. So as we're looking over here at courses on Circle, you can see, again, it's a lovely interface. Now, they talk about letting Circle AI bring your next course to life. We'll talk about this in a little bit later here, but basically that AI is going to cost you a higher tier than the breakdown. So you will get courses, and within the courses, you can have your various lessons, you can have quizzes, and that is very similar to what you get over here with FluentCommunity. So you've got a course builder, you have lessons and modules. There are student discussions areas underneath each lesson. You've got student management and also progress tracking. So it does a very good job with that. And there are quizzes available in FluentCommunity now as well. So you can drip content out, you can embed content. So this is their basic embedding thing. So like, for example, if you had a Vimeo or YouTube, you can embed it this way. There's a tab over here, which you can barely see. And that allows you to use some custom HTML code if you needed to embed it that way. There is another product that FluentCommunity works with. It is called Fluent Player, and that works very well too. So you can use Fluent Player in conjunction. That's a different product. It's an additional cost, but it's a great media player. And of course, it has a content editor. It works on Gutenberg blocks. And you can have a dedicated space for your courses or a dedicated space for your discussion. Courses also have, underneath the lessons, you can see there are discussion spaces there. So if somebody has a question or want to make a comment about a particular lesson, there is a space right under the lesson where there can be some interactive feedback. I think that's actually been very helpful from what I've seen. Now, you can make these courses public or you can make them private. So if you have a lock screen, it'll say that you could put up a notice that this is a private course. You could put up a paywall notice if people need to pay for that. And I presume the same thing is true over here with doing a paywall inside of Circle because they're going to sell their courses. There is something else that I've found with FluentCommunity that is a little bit different than what I see in Circle. And this requires Fluent Player that I just mentioned. You don't necessarily have to use a dedicated course in order to include training. On the Suburbia Press Community, I have started putting in different little one-off training sessions that are just embedded in the discussion. So they're not a specific course. They can have the training in the same place where you have your discussion going. And Fluent Player makes that possible. So that is something I consider a bit of an advantage. And the reason I say that is because people are asking questions and I can show them a quick demo without having to build a whole course module and say, go over here to this module outside of the discussion. I can show them right there in the same discussion area how to handle the problem that they've got. And also, there are audio notes inside of FluentCommunity now. So if you just want to do a voice recording, you could put that in there as a discussion comment as well too. Both Circle and FluentCommunity include some form of gamification, and they're pretty much identical from what I see. So confirmed on every plan, including professional points, levels, badges, and leaderboards are included with points earned from likes and contributions. The OneGate custom rewards are tied to automated workflows that require a business tier or higher, matching the automation gate found elsewhere in this comparison. You see with gamification, they've got this settled over here. So there are rewards, there are automations, which requires a higher tier, and people can go ahead and get their different levels. So this is the leaderboard that shows different levels they go through, the number of points they've accumulated, and progress can unlock new levels, new rewards. Maybe it gives them access to different spaces. So that's a possibility over here. The same thing is true on FluentCommunity. There's a leaderboard. They have mentions and hashtags, so they can show trending activity using their own hashtags they put in. Now, with regard to automations, that's not built directly into FluentCommunity. That integrates with Fluent CRM. Again, if you get the pro version, that would be an additional fee. And I think it's a worthwhile one. Fluent CRM is the email marketing platform and the automation platform in the Fluent ecosystem. So it works with all of their different products. So you have events and triggers that come up from the various products like FluentCommunity, like somebody completes a lesson, somebody completes a course, somebody's leaderboard, jumped up. You can add badges automatically. So all those automations work off of Fluent CRM. Now, there is a free version of Fluent CRM and there is a pro version. The pro version will have more events and triggers for Fluent CRM. If you have FluentCommunity Pro and the free version of Fluent CRM, you probably should have the pro version of the events and triggers for FluentCommunity available in there. But I'm not positive because I've got the pro versions of everything. But that's something to keep in mind. Yes, you can do it, but the leaderboard is definitely built in. The automations are something that you would want to have Fluent CRM. Badges are part of that. You could manually add those if you don't have the automations. I kind of like having the automations. When somebody signs up as a premium user, I gave them a badge, that says they're premium. When my founding members came in, I gave them a badge that they were founding members. So if somebody is a paid member, I give them a verified tag, things of that nature. So both of them will do the same thing. You can see that there are polls and surveys over here on FluentCommunity. I'm sure that they're the same thing. I thought I saw that on reference over here as far as polls. But that is something that they both have, is gamification. Circle, now branded as a CRM, a contact relationship manager or customer relationship manager, marketing hub, email hub, is confirmed for free accounts under 100 contacts. Above that, the pricing scales with a contact account. So it's $99 a month at 10,000 contacts, roughly $300 a month at 30,000 contacts, rising automatically as your list grows. Circle automatically upgrades the tier when a threshold gets crossed, pro-rated mid-cycle. So in other words, if you're in the middle of a month and your rate goes up, they'll pro-rate it during that month rather than waiting till the next month to raise the price. So this includes broadcasts, forms, contact management, automated workflows, and analytics tied directly to the community and activities like RSVPs and course completions. So the full workflow that I was kind of mentioning on the FluentCommunity and Fluent CRM side still requires a business tier or higher. And I have a concern with this. If you're using this service and you're using their CRM, how does it work with any of your other products? So for example, if you use Shopify or Thrivecart or some other kind of service like that, do you use a booking tool? Do you use a project management tool? Does it work with that? And the answer is really going to be about integrations. And we'll talk about integrations later, but the majority of the integrations that Circle has uses a tool like Zapier. In order to do the same thing inside of FluentCommunity, you really have to pair it with Fluent CRM. This is an email marketing automation inside of WordPress. There are no fees for however many people you have on your contact list because it's self-hosted. Data doesn't go back to the vendor that says, oh, they crossed over 10,000, so you have to charge them. No, once you bought the software, you've got the software. And what does it cost? Well, let's take a look at pricing. It is typically $129 a year. Right now, they're having a sale, $103 a year. That's for one site. These other prices give you the same services. They're just in case you want it for multiple sites, 5-site and 50-site license. I've used a number of various email marketing services and automation services. This one is as professional as they get. I would put it up against, I left ConvertKit to come over to Fluent CRM. And I think one of the things you need to look for when you're deciding on an email service is what else does it work with? When we come back over here, they tell you that this works with your folks inside. In other words, this is email marketing for maybe getting leads into your community and also communicating with your community. It doesn't really work that well, at least from what they're telling you, about what it does elsewhere that you may want to do. Fluent CRM is part of an entire suite. Let me show you something. These are the products that the vendor, WP Managed Ninja, has, and they're all part of the same suite. So your support ticketing tool, your community, Fluent Cart for e-commerce, Fluent Player I mentioned before, Fluent CRM we were just talking about, Fluent Booking if you need a calendar booking system, Fluent Affiliate is if you need affiliate management, Fluent Forms, Fluent Boards is a project management, and Fluent Members is something that's coming up. They've got Fluent Invoice coming up, so there are more things they're adding all the time. All of these tools work together natively on WordPress. They don't require Zapier. So what we're seeing here is that you can either pay the money that it costs over here to have one of these services at an additional cost, which costs you more as your community grows or as your CRM grows, or you can come over here, pay once, you can grow as much as you want, and as you add other features from any of these tools, they will automatically interact with Fluent CRM. That's kind of like the brain of everything. And also, it works with automation. So as I said, Fluent CRM works with Fluent Community for automations. When somebody passes a threshold and you want to give them a badge or you want to unlock something for them, the automation in Fluent CRM does it based off of a trigger from Fluent Community. Same thing when you get a payment from Fluent Cart. When someone comes in, let's say that you have a paid upgrade or you sell a course, you can integrate Fluent Cart, or they have another program down here called Paymatic, depending on which features you want, that can work inside of this, and then you can start charging for your courses and platforms. It also actually works with Fluent Forms. This product also has services with Stripe. Matter of fact, the free version of Fluent Forms works with Stripe natively. You don't have to buy the paid pro version. So if you want to charge for something, you could use that for free. But this is what I like, is the compounding effect of all of these tools working together. You get a smaller version of that compounding effect here with Circle, but they don't have as many services, and they charge you every time you pass a gap. So as I said, for the email marketing, you get 100 users that are free. Above that, up to 10,000, you're going to spend $99 a month. And it's going to go up another $99 a month from 10,001 to 20,000. So that's something to keep in mind as you're looking at costs and integration services. Let me show you something over here. On the Circle platform, you see Circle AI. This actually runs with everything, all the different platforms they have. However, if you want MCP, AI agents, you want AI workflows, those are going to be on higher tier plans. Now let's take a look over here. This is something back on the Suburbia Press Community. It's called Fluent Hub. You can find this for free on the WordPress repository as Fluent Ecosystem. And it shows how you can connect your various applications. So Fluent CRM, Fluent Boards, Fluent Cart, Form, and Support. So these tools have connectivity with the AI agents that you want to use. Fluent Community is not one of them. So there are built-in MCP connectors for various things that you may use with Fluent Community, but you don't have it with Fluent Community AI itself. Maybe that'll come to us one day in the future, but right now it's not there. Getting a mobile application for your community is not necessarily a bad idea. There are some sources that have an app that works with various communities, some that are custom apps. Now, Circle has a standard app that I believe that's included. It's fully branded. White label app requires their custom priced Circle Plus tier. So a branded application for what you want. They don't even mention the price. You have to get a custom demo, watch the video, and contact the sales department to see what they're going to have. So yes, you get something that's branded specifically for you. I don't know what the cost is going to be, but that's okay. It's going to cost something. Now, keep in mind on the pricing tiers, let's go take a look at this. One thing I noticed is over here under the business tier, $199 a month, remove the circle branding. In other words, it's going to say circle over here on the professional tier. It does not mention the app. You may have to talk to sales in order to get one here if there is any app available on any of these lower plans. The only place I see mention of an app is here under the branded apps. Again, this is Circle Plus, so you're going to be talking a rather expensive kind of process to get this. Over on FluentCommunity, there are a couple of different things that you can do. First off, they just announced, this is 7 days before I'm recording, so I'm recording August 26, 2026. PWA for your community. Basically, that is a web application that you can install right out of the box. If you go inside of your FluentCommunity, you can enable this feature. Your members and guests can just scroll down to the bottom of their sidebar, if that's where they put it, click something, and it'll only show on their mobile devices. You click something to install the mobile app. They give you instructions of how to do it. Basically, you hit the share menu on an iPhone, for example, and then you save it as a mobile app. So that way, it has your branding because it's your website. It is a web app, a progressive web app that installs directly on the homepage of your mobile device. Another thing that you can do is develop your own if you want to. The folks at FluentCommunity publish developer APIs. I have a client who's building his own site. He's hired a developer who is building a specific web app. They're testing it right now in both the Apple Store and the Android Store. So you've got two options with FluentCommunity, and one of them is free. The progressive web app is free, or I should say it's included with your purchase. So if you're using the pro version of FluentCommunity, it's included with your purchase. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. If you want a developer, you can get the documentation for free, and then you pay the developer whatever they charge. If you're a developer yourself, then you can write your own and invest some time into it. And over on Circle, it's going to be custom pricing. I don't know what they charge, couldn't begin to tell you. Since we're talking about software as a service versus a self-hosted WordPress stack, let's talk about hosting and data ownership. Circle is a fully hosted software as a service. Content and member data live on Circle's infrastructure. Nothing transfers if the business leaves. I don't know where their servers are. I don't know if they're in the United States or in another country. I don't know what happens to the data. You have no view into what happens to your data other than what you see through the Circle interface. If there's something going on behind the scenes, if the data is being used for something, you have no idea. FluentCommunity is a fully self-hosted WordPress plugin. You have full ownership of member profiles and content on the business's own server. Because it's on a server that you control, you know what happens to the data. No one else gets to it. It's private. Data isn't sold or used for any other purpose unless you do it. So that's the difference between a software as a service. Yeah, they take care of all the maintenance on self-hosted plugins. You take care of your own maintenance, which is not that difficult, honestly. But what happens to your data? This is a big question that's going on in society today when people are questioning what's happening to the data on flock cameras and other license plate readers. Well, people wonder what's happening to the data on their software as a service plan. Is it being used for any other purpose? Is that being disclosed? Read the terms of service for your software as a service plan and see if they mention anything about that. Let's talk about integrations now. On Circle, it splits integration into 4 categories. There's embed, like if you're going to embed a video. There's native integrations inside the service. There are snippets, which are little bits of code, and then Zapier. Outside the short native list, Zapier is the main path to most third-party connections. Zapier itself bills separately and per task, not per integration. So if you're integrating, let's say, with a shopping cart service, The integration is one thing, but how many times do you make a sale on that shopping cart service? Those are tasks, and there may be more than one task per sale. So the free tier caps at 100 tasks per month with single-step zaps only. In other words, a single step means one event, one trigger, and you're done. Multiple steps would be one event, multiple triggers or actions, basically a real workflow. The professional for Zapier runs between $20 and $30 a month for 750 tasks. And workflows with multiple action steps will burn through that very quickly, since every step beyond the trigger counts as its own task. Overage bills lists roughly 1.25% of the plan's per task rate. So this is a cost that sits entirely outside Circle's own pricing page. So if you're integrating something with Circle using Zapier, that is another cost you have, and it is variable depending on the events that happen and the triggers and workflows that you have in place. And that cost stacks on top of whatever tier you have for your community on Circle. Now, FluentCommunity is different. There's no equivalent tiers. Everything is included in a single flat license ceiling. So whatever you pay for your license, that's it. You don't have to have a different tier to get different features. And that is the clearest possible contrast for a pricing tier. Now, can you use Zapier for external things? Yes, you can. Matter of fact, there are webhooks available in FluentCommunity and also other applications from WP Managed Ninja. And you can integrate that with your Fluent CRM if you decide to use that, which can also do a lot of integrations for you, and the workflow is there. The nice thing about having the workflow on Fluent CRM, which you would load on the same server, is that there's no latency that happens with Zapier. Think about that. Anytime someone uses Zapier on service A, let's call that Circle, it has to transmit across the internet to Zapier. That takes time. Zapier has to process. That takes time. Zapier has to push this out to the other service. Let's say that's Shopify. Okay, that latency takes time. Then they have to publish something. Is there a return trip? Well, then you've got all that time going back and forth. So that adds to time. You don't see that if you're using the tools from WP Managed Ninja, because it's all happening on the server. They're all integrated with each other. There are no additional costs, and that just makes it easier. Using webhooks is a way to communicate with something outside. Zapier is basically a webhook service itself. So you could easily connect through webhooks to Zapier or Make or any of those services if you wanted to. There are some third-party plugins that do integrations on WordPress itself. Bitflows, I think, is one of them. And there are a number of ways, but all those are local. So the time to make things happen is a lot faster. It's a lot shorter for the integration time because it's on the same server. There's no network latency involved, and you get a faster user experience for your guests. I just want to point out, if it's not obvious already, I am an affiliate for FluentCommunity. If you want, you can use my link. There is no additional cost to you. It is suburbiapress.com/FluentCommunity. I'll have a link in the description below this, but it is there available for you, and it'll give me a little bit of income, and also it costs you nothing extra. Okay, so what have we learned? Circle hands you a finished platform and takes the maintenance off your plate. No doubts about that. FluentCommunity hands you the data, the pricing floor, and no ceiling on either one. And that's the trade this whole episode came down to. Basically, if you are self-hosting, you've got less latency for any integrations that are on your server. You still have capability to integrate with tools that are outside of your server through webhooks. You pay one price, and there are no tiers. All services are available on that price that you paid for. If you're building something you plan to still own 5 years from now, the trade point's in one direction. If you'd like to join us on our community at hub.suburbiapress.com, please come along. It's built for small to medium-sized businesses, sorting out their tools, eliminating chaos, and getting things under control, saving some money, building systems that keep compounding instead of starting over every time something changes. And as I said, I have the course for FluentCommunity called Behind the Scenes on the Suburbia Press Community. So you can either buy that outright, or you can join the premium community fee and get it as part of that, as long as any other courses that I put in there. In the next episode, we're going to compare Trello up against Fluent boards. And this time the fight isn't about ownership. It's about whether a Kanban board needs anything Trello has that Fluent boards doesn't. Thanks so much. I'll see you again in the next episode.